So I wanted to do another example with the radical equations. Again, you know it's a radical equation because of the radical symbol and the equal sign that makes it a radical equation. Remember, if you have an equal sign in a problem, you should not add another one, and you should not get rid of it. Your original problem does not have an equal sign, you never add an equal sign in. If it already has one, you cannot get rid of it. If there's an equals in your question, there should be an equals in your answer. So we have an equals, make sure you're not done until you get x equals a number. Okay. First thing I want to talk about with radical symbols, the same thing I said in my last video at the very beginning, is to identify what the radical symbol actually is containing. You want your radical symbol and your radicand being the inside of the radical. So our radical symbol goes from here to there. The 9 is not underneath the radical, and then everything on the other side of the equal sign is not underneath the radical. So when dealing with radical equations, the first thing you want to do is to isolate the radical. Make sure everything that's not contained by the radical symbol is on the other side of the radical. So I need to get rid of the 9. It's being added. I'm going to do the opposite, which is subtract it. What I do to the left side, I must also do to the right side. Everything falls. The radical symbol falls. 2 minus 9, the negative 7. It is okay to have a negative because it's an odd index equals a negative number, that's okay. If it was an even index, it'd be no solution. You can't have an even index equal to a negative number. Odd indexes, however, they're okay. You can have odd indexes with negatives. So now what we want to do, there's nothing else outside of the radical symbol. So our next step is to get rid of the radical by using an exponent equal to the index. So our index is 3. Remember, the index is the number that tells you what type of a root it is. Since this is a cubed root, the index is 3. And we're going to use that as an exponent to that entire side. And again, we're stressing sides, not terms. So we're cubed the left side, we need to cube the right side. If the right side had been more than one term, you would have had to FOIL. Don't cube the terms individually. Parentheses around the entire side goes outside the parentheses. So here, the cubed root of something cubed cancels out. 5x plus 2 falls down. The root is now gone. Equals negative 7 cubed, that's negative 7, times negative 7 times negative 7. Use your calculator if you don't know that number. Negative 7 times negative 7 is a positive 49. Times negative 7 again throws it back to the negative. Negative 343. Okay, negative because there were 3 negatives. A negative times a negative times a negative. We have no exponents. When you're solving an equation, if you have an exponent, get everything to one side and factor. However, we have no exponents. That makes your job easier. All you do from that point on is solve for x. Move the 2 to the other side, move the 5 to the other side. 2 is being added, I'm going to subtract it. Sign numbers, be very careful. Negative 343 minus 2, same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. 345. If you have any hesitation at all, double check with your calculator. Any hesitation will be amplified on the test. 5 is being multiplied to the x, so to get rid of it, we're going to divide. What we do to one side, we do to the other. X equals negative 345 divided by 5 is negative 69. Notice I didn't have that memorized. I'm not expecting y'all to have it memorized. I had to look back at my notes to see what it was. We're not expecting you to know 345 divided by 5 off the top of your head. You do not have to do that in your head. Use your calculator. You have these tools to help you be successful. We want to know in the real world that you know when to go get help from someone else, when to get help from your calculator. Okay? Next step is to check this. So we're going to plug this back in. Cubed root 5 times negative 69 plus 2. Outside the radical plus 9 should equal 2. Make sure this answer is correct. 5 times negative 69, that's a negative 343 plus 2. Cubed root, negative 343 plus 2. Different signs. 345, I apologize. 345 gives us the negative 343. And the cubed root of negative 343, if you don't believe me, check your calculator. You can have a negative under an odd index. You cannot under an even. And negative 7 plus 9. 2 equals 2. Since that is true, that comes back here and says that is your answer. Isolate. Use an exponent to eliminate the radical. Solve for x. Check your answers.